think what struck me when I was listening was we know absolutely nothing about this man that Peter just described. We know what he did, but we don't know who he was. And for all of us, we can talk about what we do, but what we do is actually not who we are. And all of Buddhist practice, but certainly from the Zen perspective, we're much more interested in who we are, or what we are, than what we do. What we do is important enough. Obviously, what Peter was talking about, when he talked about the sand-filled barriers, I don't know about you, but I get an image of them. I see them on Highway 80 all the time as I'm going to cross the bridge, and when I cross over, I guess I go from 24 to 580 to the bridge, there are these sand barrels, and sometimes they're broken. And when they're broken, that means somebody has crashed into them. Actually, I'm going to take this, I want to tell one more story and we'll keep going. Because I read something in the paper that now I'm just reminded of. There was a shooting in Oakland a couple of nights ago. 2 young girls got shot and killed, probably near the Fruitvale area of Oakland. And the article in the paper this morning started, there was a big picture of the father of one of the girls who died with 2 people who actually, the shooting was done at about 6 o'clock in the morning. And people in the street ran out. They heard this hail of bullets. And there was a photo of 2 people who sat with this man's daughter and held her hand while she was dying. And they said that she tried to hold on, but she couldn't. She died. But what really struck my attention was the article started with the father had a fight with the daughter and said to her something like, if you're not going to follow the rules, then you have to leave. And she said, fine, I'm leaving. And she walked out the door. And that was, I don't know, sometime in the evening, and she was shot 6 o'clock in the morning the next morning. And that father has to live with that. So there's what we do, and then there's what we have to live with. Now, I would guess the father would love to be able to take that back, but he can't. And maybe he had good reason to put his foot down, but he certainly didn't expect that result. We don't know the results of our action. The people who bash into those barrels probably have no idea who invented that and why they invented it. All they know is they're alive when they might have been dead. So, then what? We have these lives, each one of us. What are we doing? How do we hold it? All of us could think, I would never do that. I wouldn't kick my daughter out. Maybe. So easy to be in judgment of somebody else's action. It's so easy to sit and read something and make judgments and ideas. But each one of us has to live our life. What are we doing? And why are we doing that? And what's the result of our action? You know, the word karma gets bandied around a lot, and people think of it as cause and effect. And sometimes you hear, actually it came up with, I was working with somebody this week, and she said to me, she said, I was talking to somebody about this situation, and the person said, you have heavy karma. That's your life. But what is that? You have heavy karma. Probably what they were saying is, you have difficult situations that continually manifest in your life. But there's a basic misunderstanding of karma that most of us make all the time. We think about karma as what happens to us. But we're missing a very, very important point. Karma is not just what happens to us. We think of karma as cause and effect. But actually, karma is cause, action, effect. My teacher, Zen Master Bon Soeng, would explain it. He says you have a match, you strike the match, and you have fire. Don't strike the match, you don't have fire. So karma is cause, action, and effect. Now you have this fire. Fire becomes the next cause. What do you do with this fire? If you light the paper around this building, and that paper ignites the building, and the building burns up, you get one result. If you take that match and you light this candle, take 3 steps back and bow, you get another result. So the important thing is how we actually meet the moment. What do we do with it? So the fundamental basic point in Peter's talk was, he said, bad situation can become a good situation. Now, for those 80 people who died in the car crash, nothing's going to make that a good situation. They're dead. For the 17,000 people who have lived after those barrels were invented, out of the ashes of that horrendous situation grew an inspiration. And that inspiration was, if it was just an inspiration, it would have petered out. We all know how many inspirations we have that turn into nothing. They're wonderful fantasies. We have great ideas. Every day I have great ideas. Very few of those ideas become anything. They're just fantasy. But how do we meet the moment? This man that Peter talked about turned that moment into something. He was probably driven, or maybe haunted, by the memory of that fire and that car rolling over into the crowd and 80 people dying. But it's possible, now I'm just making this up, it's possible that he became so driven by that memory and so committed to doing something that he forgot about his children. And maybe his children suffered. Maybe one of his children turned around and didn't follow the rules and said, I'm leaving, and then left. So there's not just one result. One action echoes out or ripples out into thousands and thousands and thousands of actions. Thousands and thousands and thousands of a result. So sometimes we say, be careful. Watch your step. You don't know where that next foot's going to land. And you don't know the ripples that will come out of that step. But then we run into another problem. We can become so careful that we actually lose our spontaneity and our spark of life. So the Buddha taught the middle way. Not too tight, not too loose. But none of us know where the middle way is. So we have to train. We have to learn to be aware. We have to learn to see our step. We have to learn to actually witness the results of our step. Many of them we'll never know, but some of them we know very clearly. We need to learn how to pay close enough attention to our life that we can see how cause is impacted by action, which creates a result. We never know. But we can be aware. We can have wisdom. We can develop the capacity to recognize how our actions impact the world, at least what we can see. And more importantly, perhaps, our motivation, where we're coming from. What I said was that we heard the facts of Cooper's life, but we don't know anything about who he was. So, just as we did tonight, we chant, we sit with this basic question, what am I? And as Paul talked about in his meditation instruction, we settle into our lower abdomen. We develop a kind of centeredness. You know, Paul said that I was a psychotherapist, which is true. That's a title that I have. And over the last few years especially, I've been working with people from many different Buddhist traditions. And what I keep finding is that practitioners, we have a difficult time really connecting our practice and our lives. We can meditate, we can sit really still, and then we get out in our lives and we have no center. We have no solid grounding to be able to meet the world in a way that our delusion, our anger, and our ignorance don't keep tossing us around. So our concept, our ideas, this basic I, me, mine, I. Buddha taught this very clearly. The self-centeredness and the confusion that self-centeredness breeds runs the show unless we find a way to slow it down enough to actually witness the moment as it is. So many of the people I'm working with, they have a practice, but when push comes to shove, it doesn't help. It's like it's this practice, but then they come to their life and they can't use it. So, now of course this is the teaching that I was taught. Zen Master Bon Soeng, when we were in an interview with him, he used to take his stick and he'd like poke us right in that lower abdomen. And he'd say, make your center stronger, stronger, stronger. And I'm not trying to make negative comments about any other practice, but I am saying what I notice is there's a lacking for all of us, and it's probably true for us Quantum practitioners who are sitting in this room also. This development of a center, this groundedness, this meeting the moment with clarity, not being tossed around by the moment, it seems to me more and more is a prerequisite. to clarity, wisdom, and compassion. So in our teaching, we start off with centering in on that lower abdomen and breathing in and breathing out, slowly and mindfully from that place. And we can feel it. Every breath, we can practice having that center that grounds us and supports us, so that when the moment, this world is totally topsy-turvy. It's totally unpredictable. And try as we might to control things and make them happen the way we want to, something is going to come up that we're not ready for and we're not prepared for. And unless we have that grounded clarity to meet the moment, we just get tossed around here and there. What we don't like comes toward us and we get lost in it. Or what we like, we can have and we want more and more and more of it, and we lose ourselves. We're constantly losing ourselves. So this very basic and simple teaching of getting some grounding in this lower abdomen and learning how to stay focused and alive and ready, so that when the moment comes, we're there. You know, if you mix this psychology and Buddhism together, you can say from the psychological perspective, what we can't hold, we either push away, or we try to ignore and neglect, and then what happens is we end up acting unconsciously in the ways that cause us trouble. We don't like something, so we push it away, and we think, okay, I'll just push it away and that'll take care of it. But it's that old metaphor of pushing down on the balloon, and you think you're pushing it down, but it just pops up somewhere else. And it pops up unconsciously, so that we start acting and behaving in ways that, even for us, if we're honest, we look at it and say, what the fuck am I doing? This is crazy. But we can't help it, because we can't hold it. So our practice is about developing a place that we can hold everything, our whole experience. So Zen Master Bon Soeng would say, make your center stronger, stronger, stronger. Another way I sometimes say it is make your container bigger, 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 so that you can hold it, you can feel it, you can experience it, and not go dead, or not go in denial, or not push it away, or not grasp, but just hold it. The more we hold our experience, the more we can be alive and real. We all know what this is like. We all know the moments that something happens and we're there. We're not thrown off by it, but we're present, we're alive. And then, boom, we can meet the moment. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, but boom, we're there. So we're not practicing to become good meditators. We're practicing to be alive in the moment that we're in. Many of you have come here, you've heard me tell this story, but an old friend of mine who became a Zen teacher got in trouble. The usual way. So we met up one day. We happened to both be showing up at a retreat somewhere, and we both flew into the same airport. And I don't think either one of us knew we were coming. And this was really when it was fresh for him. And he said to me, he said, you know, I'm a superstar in the Dharma room, but I'm a washout in my life. And I thought, that's a lousy trade-off. And of course he realized it was a lousy trade-off. So, you know, we practice not to become good at meditating. That may be a byproduct. We may be able to sit more or stronger or longer. But we're practicing to be alive, to meet the moment fully human. We're not practicing to become God in the sense of perfect or have supernatural powers. We might be practicing to become God if you think God is human. Our true humanness is manifest. So we say, become your true self. Zen Master Bon Soeng's line would be, he said, the purpose of Buddhism is to attain your true self and help this world. But helping this world isn't separate from attaining your true self. Because as we attain our true nature, that includes the entire universe. Then naturally and openly, we're available. We're not grasping for me, because you are me. So if I want to rip off from you what I want, I'm already desecrating not only you, but me. So being alive means being the whole world, the entire universe. As I lift my hand, the entire universe is lifting its hand. Sometimes we say, Buddha is picking up Buddha, is hitting Buddha. That's true for me, that's true for Peter, that's true for every single one of us. That's true for the piece of shit that we're avoiding stepping on. That's true for the person we're angry at for leaving their dog's shit on the sidewalk. It includes everything. So our minds, our hearts, and our center have to expand enough to include everything. Each one of us knows, no matter how evolved we want to pretend to be, what it is that we can't hold, what it is we reject. Myself, I've been working on hatred lately. I'm kind of a political junkie, and I've been following politics a lot lately. And I see my hatred arising for those who I don't like. And it just, boom, just pops. There it is. Right now, the best I can do is notice it as it arises. I still haven't been able to free myself from it. And at least in my mind's eye, freeing myself of it doesn't mean liking what they stand for. But it's so easy to turn dislike for what someone stands for to hatred for that person. And it's so easy to think I'm right and you're wrong. Again, this is a line that folks hear from me from time to time, but I realize that it's impossible that I'm right and 7 billion other human beings are wrong. But nobody else in this world has the same belief system that I have. Personally, I think my belief system is pretty good, but it's just my belief system. And I do also recognize that it's totally impossible that I'm right all the time. But usually we live as if we are. Or sometimes we get stuck in the opposite and we live as if we're never right. But that's just mirror images of each other. So, just to come back to finish this up, the very simple practice of breathing deeply into your lower abdomen, and that very simple process of feeling your belly pushing out on the inhalation and feeling it fall on the exhalation. Simple as that. How many times do we breathe in it one day? How many times do we breathe in 1 minute? just to feel that rising and falling, to become grounded in that rising and falling, grounds us into our center. And then we practice, not just in the Dharma hall, but every moment in our lives. Right now, what is it? From this place. We think up here, we feel from here, but we live from here. And this unifies it all. Lead with your lower belly. Lead with your abdomen. Listen from here. Speak from here. Give from here. Take from here. That's Zen practice. Not just in this room, everywhere we go. The Dharma hall has no walls. It's everywhere. If you're just doing it here, that's pretty good. Sometimes I say you're wasting your time, but I'm feeling generous tonight. That's pretty good to do it here. But it's much better to do it out there. It's much better when you can bring that to the person that you love. That open-heartedness, that acceptance. Even better, bring it to the people you hate. You don't even have to deny the hate. Just bring that centeredness, bring that doubt, bring that question. Maybe you have something to tell me. Zen Master Joju, back in the, 1200s or so, he said he was 60 years old, his teacher died, everybody thought he was going to become the teacher. He said, I'm not ready yet. So he went on a 20-year pilgrimage around China. And when he left, he said, if I meet a 7-year-old who has something to teach me, I'll listen. If I meet a master who I have something to teach them, I'll teach them. It's always reciprocal. It's never a point where we don't have something to learn from somebody else. And there's also never a moment that we don't have something to offer somebody. Stay open, stay loving, compassionate, and give it away.